Have you ever sat alone after a phone call with your child and wondered, when did things change? One day, you're the center of their world, the person they come to for advice, for help, for comfort. Then suddenly, you're being interrupted mid-sentence. Your opinion is brushed off. Your boundaries are ignored. Or worse, they speak to you with a tone that feels cold, impatient, maybe even disrespectful. If that's happened to you, you're not imagining it. And more importantly, you're not alone. As we grow older, something shifts in the dynamic between parents and adult children. Sometimes it's subtle, like being talked over at dinner. Other times it's painful, like feeling dismissed or taken for granted. And while we all want to believe that love is enough to hold a family together, respect is what keeps that love feeling safe, mutual, and lasting. That's why this conversation matters. Because after 60, you deserve more than just being tolerated. You deserve to be heard, to be valued, and to be respected, not just as a parent, but as a person with wisdom, experience, and your own identity. This video isn't about blaming or shaming your children. It's about gently reclaiming your place in the relationship, with strength, with grace, and with quiet confidence. And it starts with how you carry yourself. The first step is understanding that respect doesn't begin with others, it begins with you. People often mirror what we accept, what we allow, and how we show up. If you've been shrinking yourself to keep the peace, brushing things off to avoid confrontation, or doubting your own value, it might be time to reset. I met a man named Bill, 72, who told me something that struck me deeply. I stopped speaking up because I didn't want to sound like a burden, he said. But the more I stayed quiet, the more they treated me like I had nothing to say. He didn't raise his voice or demand attention. He simply started asking for what he needed, calmly, clearly, and consistently. And slowly, his family began to listen again. The truth is, respect grows where clarity lives. That means being honest about how you want to be treated, and not apologizing for it. It means saying, I don't appreciate being spoken to that way, or I'd like to share my thoughts too, or please don't assume I'm not capable. This kind of communication takes courage, especially when it's your own child. But it doesn't have to come with anger. In fact, the more calm and grounded you are, the more powerful your message becomes. The second step is something that's just as important, setting gentle, firm boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're not punishments. They're a way of saying, I respect myself enough to protect my peace. And when you model that self-respect, others begin to follow suit, whether they realize it or not. Maybe your adult child speaks harshly to you when they're stressed. Maybe they expect you to drop everything for them, without asking how you're doing. Or maybe they simply don't include you in decisions that affect you. These are all opportunities to pause and say, I love you, and I need to talk about something that's been bothering me. I know it's not easy. But boundaries can actually bring families closer when done with kindness. They create clarity. They remove resentment. And they remind everyone that love works best when it flows in both directions. There was a woman named Helen, 68, who finally told her daughter, I want to be there for you, but I need to be asked, not expected. She said it calmly, during a quiet conversation. Not in the middle of an argument. Not out of frustration. Just clearly. And that shift opened the door to a new kind of understanding. Sometimes, gaining respect means gently retraining how people engage with you. And that takes time, patience, and consistency. But it's worth it. Because your voice matters. Your feelings matter. And just because your children are grown doesn't mean your role as a parent has to fade into silence. Now that we've opened the door to self-respect and boundaries, let's keep walking forward, because there are more ways to rebuild that bridge between you and your children, and they start with simple, powerful choices you can make starting today. Because once you begin to honor yourself, not with harshness, but with quiet strength, something begins to shift. You show the people around you that your presence matters. That you're still growing. Still thinking. Still worth listening to. And that leads us into the next powerful piece of this journey, stop trying to prove your worth and start living it instead. Sometimes, as parents, we slip into this pattern of overgiving. We offer time, money, support, often without being asked, because that's how we've always shown love. But when that giving goes unappreciated or is taken for granted, it can quietly chip away at your sense of worth. And worse, it can send the message that your value only comes from what you do, not who you are. But here's the truth: you don't need to earn your child's respect by constantly sacrificing yourself. You've done your part. You've raised them, supported them, taught them, loved them. And now, you're in a season of life where your time, energy, and peace matter too. That's not selfish, that's healthy. A woman named Marjorie, 74, told me she used to babysit her grandkids 5 days a week, cook for her adult children every Sunday, and never once complained, even when she was exhausted. But inside, she felt invisible. Until one day she said, "I realized I was still trying to prove I was useful. But what I needed was to believe I was valuable, with or without the cooking and cleaning." So she pulled back. Not with bitterness. Just with intention. She started doing things she loved again. And when her kids noticed she wasn't always available, something changed. They began to see her differently. To respect her time. To ask, not assume. That's the power of stepping back with love, not resentment. Of showing your adult children that while you'll always care, your life doesn't revolve around being needed. And in doing that, you stop begging for respect, you start commanding it, without saying a word. And while we're on the topic of being seen and valued, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked: living your own full, independent life. It's amazing how much shifts when your kids realize that you have a life outside of them. A routine, a purpose, a spark that belongs entirely to you. This doesn't mean you need to climb mountains or start a business, unless you want to. It can be as simple as taking up painting again, joining a walking group, traveling with friends, volunteering, or learning something new just for the joy of it. Whatever it is, it shows the world, and your family, that you are not stuck in the past. That you're still living, still curious, still moving forward. One man, David, 70, told me that when he started writing poetry in his spare time, his children were shocked. "I didn't even know you liked poetry," his daughter said. "I didn't either," he smiled, "until I gave myself permission to explore." That one small shift changed their relationship. She started calling more. Asking more questions. Seeing him as more than just dad, but as a full, complex person with thoughts, emotions, and dreams of his own. That's what respect is rooted in, seeing someone as whole. And the more you embrace your life, the more others will see you in that light too. Now, here's another piece that can be tough to hear, but it's essential: stop chasing their validation. When your adult child speaks sharply, doesn't call, doesn't include you the way you'd hoped, it's easy to go into fix-it mode. To apologize for things that weren't your fault. To overextend yourself to win them back. But all that really does is train them to believe your love is unconditional, but their respect doesn't have to be earned. And that's not the message we want to send. You are allowed to have standards. You are allowed to expect mutual respect in the relationship. And if that respect isn't offered, you are allowed to step back. Not to punish, but to protect your peace. It's hard. I won't lie. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let your child feel the absence of your constant presence. Let them notice what it feels like when you're not bending over backward. Let them remember that love doesn't mean unlimited access, it means mutual care. This isn't about cutting ties. It's about strengthening boundaries, standing taller, and showing your children that while your love for them is deep, your respect for yourself is just as important. Because when they see you respecting yourself, your time, your needs, your voice, they'll either rise to meet that level, or they'll step away. And either way, you've honored yourself. And that is the beginning of something powerful. Let's keep going, because there's one more truth, one final reminder, that might just be the turning point in how you're seen, and how you feel in your family. Because sometimes the most powerful change doesn't come from what you say or what you do, it comes from how you see yourself. And this final truth is simple, but it matters more than anything else. You are worthy of respect, whether they give it to you or not. It's easy to believe that your worth depends on how your children treat you. That if they call, include you, listen to you, then you matter. And if they don't, you start to wonder, did I fail as a parent? But I want you to hear this with all your heart. You did not fail. You raised them the best you could, with what you knew and what you had at the time. And now that they're adults, their choices are theirs, not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of where they are in their own journey. Sometimes they're busy. Sometimes they're overwhelmed. And sometimes, honestly, they're still growing up, even if they're in their 30s or 40s. That doesn't mean you have to sit and wait for them to grow into appreciation. You can choose to stand tall now. You can choose to carry yourself with the dignity you've earned over a lifetime. You can speak up when you need to. Step back when you must. Love them deeply, but also love yourself enough to not settle for less than kindness. One woman, Lillian, 76, told me something beautiful. She said, I finally stopped trying to be the perfect mother. I started being the proud woman I already was. She said her daughter noticed the change immediately. Not because she said anything, but because she stopped chasing and started being. Her presence changed the room. Her voice softened, but her posture stood taller. And over time, her daughter began treating her with a respect that came not from guilt, but from admiration. That's what we're building here. Not confrontation. Not resentment. But quiet, graceful strength. So let's take a moment to remember what we've shared. You regain respect by honoring your own voice, setting boundaries with kindness, and living a life that reflects your strength, not your fear of being left behind. You stop overgiving and start allowing your children to grow into mutual responsibility. You build your own joys, your own routines, your own peace. And you stop chasing love, because love that's real doesn't need to be chased. You might be 60, 70, even 80, but you are not invisible. Your wisdom still matters. Your feelings still matter. Your presence still matters. And sometimes, the moment you begin to believe that, really believe it, the people around you will begin to believe it, too. If this message resonated with you, I want you to know this, you are not alone. So many others in this community are walking through the same things, feeling the same frustrations, and quietly looking for peace, clarity, and confidence, just like you. If you'd like to share your experience, leave a comment below. Whether you're in the middle of this journey or just starting to set boundaries, your story could be the one that gives someone else the strength to speak up. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe for more heartfelt, honest conversations about life after 60, because you deserve support that sees you fully. Here's to standing tall. Here's to being heard. And here's to living your best life, not in the shadow of the past, but in the light of the self-respect you've carried all along. You don't have to fight for respect. You just have to remember, you already deserve it.